Hi, I hope you're having a great day. Well, over the last couple of years, we've consulted with so many parents and so many children. And the one question that keeps coming up all the time is why is it such a struggle to get children, adults, teenagers, or whatever it is to stop eating so much of junk food, to do things in moderation, to give up aerated drinks, not to abuse the human body? These questions keep coming up. And we can watch loads and loads of motivational videos that tell us that these products are bad for you, that you need to exercise every day, you need to eat a clean diet, you need to eat 3 or 4 fruits in a day and 5 different vegetables and all of those things. We fail to understand that everyone's body is unique and everyone's body is different. And what really matters is the choices that we make. Now, the power to make those choices come from within inside of us. What controls us is our own motivation and inspiration. Like I said, there's so much of inspiration around you all the time, and motivation as well. We all know we need to exercise. Our children know that. We all know we have to eat clean. Our children know that too. We all know the importance of sleep, the importance of not taking too much of stress and letting it affect us. We know the importance of all of these things. But what stops us from doing it? What stops us from implementing these things? Like I always say, willpower has a shelf life. We can decide that I'm going off sugar for 2 weeks and we'll be good at that for 2 weeks. And then the third week comes up and willpower has a shelf life. We give up and then we start binging. It's like people who say, I'm not going to drink alcohol for 1 month. And it doesn't matter because then the week after that 1 month, they just binge drink so much that the 1 month of abstaining from alcohol doesn't do anything good for them. So I've been trying to figure out, where does this all come from? Our inability to discipline ourselves, the inability to do the things that we know are good for us. And a lot of it has to do with our self-esteem. Today, when you look at children who get, not just children, when you look at children or adults or teenagers, who get into drugs, who get into excessive drinking, this all comes from a space of low self-esteem, not feeling good about yourself, not understanding your self-worth. People are going to drink at some point. You will experiment with maybe marijuana or alcohol or a joint or something as you're growing up and you go through your teenage years and your adult years and all of that stuff. But that addiction, when we constantly keep doing it over and over and over again, sometimes it's the addiction to that chemical or that alcohol, or sometimes it's from a space of low self-esteem. So for example, if you are that person in the group where you're constantly appreciated for how much your capacity to drink is, and if you have low self-esteem and you say, wow, people recognize me for my capacity to drink so much, you just go on doing it more and more and more. If you're that person in your group who can roll the neatest joints in the least possible time and you're constantly appraised, wow, your joints are the best, you roll the best joints, you suddenly get this value and this appreciation, and if your self-esteem is low, you go on doing it over and over and over again. If you're that kind of person who gets appreciated for your ability to party every single night, sleep less, and still work the next day, and you have low self-esteem, you look at that appreciation as value, and because your self-worth or the way you see yourself is so low, you begin to do more and more of that. When we look at children today, and if you're in a particular group where it's cool to have like fast food in your hand and a Coca-Cola, and that kid who does it is tagged as cool, and our self-esteem is low, we believe that to be cool, we need to do that. We need to eat crap food. We need to eat junk food. We need to hold an aerated can of drink in our hands, because your self-worth is attached to what you do, materialistic things and all of these things. So it all comes down to self-esteem. Because when we talk to children who have these bad habits, and they do it because everyone is doing it. You only do things that everyone is doing when your self-esteem is low. So for example, if you're that person at work who gets appreciated because every single day you're the last person to leave office, you work so many hours and all of that stuff, and you're low in self-esteem, suddenly you start getting recognized for your hard work. You start doing more and more and more of that. So you call yourself a workaholic because that gives you that sense of worth, because you have low self-esteem. Many, 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 many differences and reasons. This is just an example. So when it comes to our children, Adults is a whole different ball game. I can't tell you how many people, including myself at some point, we go through low self-esteem. But as we're more aware and we start living mindfully and we decide that we don't want to be people pleasers anymore, we want to stand up for who we are the right way. We want to say what we want to say when we want to say it, because we have self-respect and because we have self-esteem. Everything starts changing. Everyone in some way or the other has low self-esteem, which starts from childhood. And then we try to fix that up by building wealth or by building empires or doing certain things or engaging ourselves into things which gives us a little bit of value and worth because our self-esteem is low. Like I said, it's not a crime to have low self-esteem, but it's very important for us to be aware of it, because are we making decisions about our health, career, relationships, everything from a space of low self-esteem? If we are, it's the wrong decision. So it's very important to understand these things. Anyway, today we're going to talk about children, and one of the best gifts that you can give your children is a positive sense of self. There are so many children today who think less of themselves, who think they don't deserve things, who think little of themselves, and that's damaging. That molds their behavior, their actions, their choices when it comes to their health. They don't give priority to their health because they have low self-esteem. So we're going to discuss a couple of points, simple lifestyle changes, simple things that you can do as parents. And some of you, if you don't have children, you can apply this to yourself as well. The first thing is spending time with your children. There is nothing on this planet that can replace the amount of time that you will spend with your children. I'm not talking about the time that your children will spend with your servants, with your nannies, with your grandparents, or any of that. That may be good, but nothing can replace the time that you spend with your children, because in that bonding time, it could be 10 minutes of quality time, it could be an hour. But that time that you spend allows communication, where you can allow that your children to be who they want to be, to express, to talk about what's going on in their minds, what's going on in their life. Spending 1 hour of TV time with your children is not the kind of time I'm talking about, because you're engaged in watching someone else's life or a group of other people's life on a screen, which is not even real. I'm talking about quality time. You may not have an hour, you may have 45 minutes, you may have 30 minutes, you may have 10 minutes. But make sure that time is quality time. And I'll give you that example, because when parents come with their children to me, I separate the parents and children because I want the children to speak. And mostly till date, all the children are looking for is attention, value, appreciation, and doing things with their parents. These are the 4 drugs that if we give them, other problems will start getting better and better and better. The second thing, so communication has to be open with your children. Comparison. As adults, we see how much we suffer when we compare our lives, our bodies, our goals, our financial goals, our career goals, our positions with other people. We know the misery it comes with. We know the depression it comes with. We know that low self-esteem feeling it comes with. So do not do that for your children. Never compare your children with siblings or other children in their class. It doesn't matter if their colleague or their child in class is like brilliant. Your child is who your child is at that point. You do not try to change them or inspire them or motivate them by comparing them to other children. That is the quickest and easiest way to rob them of their self-esteem. Everyone is unique in their own way, including your children. Some very slow starters and slow learners will turn out to be some of the most brilliant brains later on in life. And you can look around this all the time. You look at that kid who was like, even the teachers say, oh, there's not much hope for that person, and he turns out to be, or she turns out to be, a brilliant human being. So stop comparing. That's the easiest way to rob them of their self-esteem. It's very necessary for us to teach our children or people or even ourselves that it is okay to be imperfect. You'll see most perfectionists have a problem, because when things are not perfect, all their anxiety builds up, all their emotions come to rise, and they have innumerable problems. Nature's not perfect. You cannot expect perfection in your children. What you can do is inculcate discipline, which is very different from perfection. It is okay to be imperfect. When we expect them to be perfect or ourselves to be perfect, we will always have low self-esteem. Because when you look around, there is always going to be someone better than you or better than your child in terms of looks, in terms of grades, in terms of academics, or whatever it is. So you do not want to rob them of their self-esteem by constantly trying to make them be perfect, because you will waste a lifetime in trying to achieve perfection. It is not possible. Teach them to find beauty in their imperfections, and that's what's going to be more empowering for their growth. Insincere praise. It's great to praise your children because children's adults and human beings look for value, appreciation, and praise. But there's something called sincere praise and insincere praise. I'll give you a simple example. Your son or daughter wins the running race in school, and then you start off with all your praise. Oh, you're the best athlete in the world. You're the best. You're better than Usain Bolt. All of that stuff. You don't have to get that dramatic. You ran the race, you did really, really well. I really love the way you trained for this race, and that's why you won the race. It's fantastic. Sincere praise, because children can see through insincere praise. And then your praise loses value. They're just like, oh, my mom's always saying that. Like, you go on telling your child you love them like 100 times in a day. It's not necessary. Once may be okay. Twice may be okay. Thrice may be okay. Every second of the day, they don't have to be told they are loved. They should feel it. They will feel it. They're intuitive. Children are intuitive. They can pick up all these things. So sincere praise, because when you're giving insincere praise, they start to lower their self-esteem because they think you're only trying to make them happy or feel good. So it is so important that you give them sincere praise all the time. There's a huge difference between responsibility and errands. It is very important for you to teach your children and yourself what responsibility is. When you give your children responsibility, you increase their self-esteem because you allow them to feel involved in decision-making, in accountability. When your child doesn't have accountability and responsibility, everything just operates with a whole airy-fairy kind of a, way of operation. But your children must have responsibility, like do not waste electricity, put off the ACs when not needed, put off the fans, put off the lights, don't keep the tap open while you're brushing your teeth. These are responsibilities that you teach your children. You make them involved in the whole growth process. And then there are errands. Certain duties and household errands that you can make them do will also increase their self-esteem. You may have 10 servants and you may have all the help in the world, but it doesn't mean that your children should not learn how to do household errands. As simple as setting the table, as simple as putting their plates in the sink, because these things involve them in making decisions, accountability, responsibility, and doing errands. It teaches them self-esteem because tomorrow they go out in the real world, no one's going to be there to follow up with them as much as you and your servants did. And then their self-esteem comes crashing down. So you want to prepare them for the real world, the world that you create for them in your homes with every possible luxury or whatever it is that you give them. I'm not saying don't do it. Okay, that's your world. The real world outside is very different from the kind of world that you create for them at home. So you got to prepare them for the real world, no matter how much wealth you may have, no matter how little wealth you may have. Responsibility, accountability, and errands is absolutely important for your child's self-esteem as they grow up. Name calling. Refrain from branding your children with words like useless, you're stupid, you're dumb, someone else is smarter than you. All of those things. Do not do that, because what you put in their subconscious by calling them, it's as simple as that. When you name your child John, for example. Okay, they know that because that's their name. It's in their subconscious. They respond to John. You put dumb, you put stupid, you put useless, you put all these names into them. That's exactly how they'll grow up thinking they are. Their perception about themselves will be that, what you put into them. Your words are so powerful when it comes to yourself and when it comes to the words that you use for your children. It shapes their image, it shapes their thoughts, it shapes their behaviors, their actions, and the way they perceive themselves. Low self-esteem is dependent on what you say to your children. Sarcasm. Never try to teach children by being sarcastic with them. They don't get it with sarcasm, and sarcasm only lowers self-esteem. You know what, as an adult, if someone's sarcastic with you, how does it make you feel? The same thing. How is it going to make your children feel if you use sarcasm to correct certain behaviors? Remember, it's okay to dislike the actions and behavior of your child, but you don't have to dislike them. So when your child makes a mistake, no matter what it is, you can still tell them, listen, I love you, but what you did is completely wrong. Your action is not acceptable. Your behavior is not acceptable. I love you, but this is not acceptable. We don't have to go on with the I love you, I love you, I love you, even when they make mistakes, because they have to learn the difference between right and wrong. So you can dislike the behavior and action, but not the child. You can do that by keeping these two things separate. Don't do everything for your children. You have to understand. A lot of our own insecurities make us want to do more and more for our children and handhold them through everything. We have to make our children do things themselves. That's the only way they're going to learn responsibility, failure, accountability, not achieving something. Today, all of us want our children only to achieve. Then how are we going to teach them to deal with failure? Because there's not a single human being in the world who does not go through failure. And if we don't know how to handle failure, we go into depression, our self-esteem comes crashing down, and we have all of these problems all the time. So the more you get your children to do something, I told you, it doesn't matter if you have 10 servants to do things for them, but still make your children do things. And that's how you evolve them into children and give them that positive sense of self, which is so important for their development. Allow children the space to express. Whatever your children want to say, allow, because that teaches them tolerance. If we grow up without tolerance in our life, we have low self-esteem because we don't have a space to express. We don't have a space to be who we want to be. So we become doormats where everyone walks all over us and stuff like that. We're so dependent, we're literally like begging our bosses for the next position because we think it's all dependent on that one boss because we have low self-worth. If you have low self-worth, you will never succeed in evolving as a human being. You may push yourself down to the lowest, deepest point of your pit to grow into that position. Sacrifice everything from your work to your family to your relationships to your health. But you will never have that feeling of self-fulfillment unless your self-esteem is high. So we got to teach our children what their worth is. First of all, we have to understand what our worth is so that we make sure that the decisions we make, the choices we make, the place that we're in comes from a space of not from fear, but of love, respect, and self-esteem. I can't tell you how many people right now are working in jobs that they dislike and that they hate. And the first thing that has to change is the job. But when you ask them, why don't you quit? You don't like your job. So imagine every single day you got to wake up with that negative energy, go to a place that you don't want to be in. That's destroying your mental, emotional, health, your physical health, and everything. And we ask them, why don't you make a change? Most of the answers are because of fear. Because fear of, will I succeed if I make a change? Will I succeed if I follow my passion? So you got to think about all of these things. It all involves your self-esteem. Give choices to your children within a framework of pre-selected choices. So your children want to eat junk today. Let them eat junk. I'm not here to tell you not to let them eat junk, but give them options. Okay, if you want to eat junk, okay, what will you eat with it? For the next 1 week, we're going to have junk on Saturday. So Monday to Friday, can you be good with your food? Can you have your fruits? Can you have your nuts? Will you do your exercise? Will you limit your screen time? Give them options. Include them in options. And that's what also helps you build self-esteem because they are involved in decision making, makes your job easier as well. So let them choose, but with options that you pre-select. So it helps them to reason, it helps them to think, and it helps them to make the right decisions as well. And teach them gratitude. There is no more powerful lesson than gratitude. Your children, today children get what they want whenever they want it. And we don't teach them gratitude. When they don't know gratitude, they take everything for granted. That's not a problem until they learn that life is not going to give them everything that they want, and then the self-esteem comes crashing down. Teach them to thank for little things. Many people don't follow religion, that's fine, but they can still be grateful for everything that they get, everything that they have. Teach them gratitude in the morning before going to bed at every night, things that they can be grateful for. Simple exercise as a family, 3 or 4 things that you're grateful for at the end of the day. Everyone participates in that, in that exercise. So your child grows up understanding that I'm grateful because many people don't get what I get. So there's something to be grateful for. If they don't know gratitude, they go out in the world expecting everything that they want because they've had a life that's given them everything that they want. They broke something, they lost something at school. Here's the new replacement next day. Here's something new. Your iPad broke. Here's a new iPad. So they don't learn to be grateful and cherish the things. It's a different thing whether you can afford it or not. But teach them gratitude. And this is how we build the self-esteem of our children. It doesn't matter which fancy school they're going to, how many tuition classes, how many tennis classes, swimming classes, and all of that stuff they do if they have low self-esteem. And the only people who can change self-esteem, it starts at home. Don't depend on your teachers and schools. They play a huge role, but everything starts from home. The choices that they make, the self-esteem that they build, it starts with you being responsible for that. So it's a great exercise that we look at our own self-esteem first before we start doing these exercises with our children. And children with strong self-esteem will behave better when they get involved in groups that do drugs, alcohol, party, socialize. They know their limits, they know their boundaries, they know how to stay on path. They can stay within the storm without being blown off path. And that's what self-esteem does. It grounds you to your values, to your behaviors, and everything that you've learned. Have a great day, everyone. Until next time, eat smart, move more, sleep right, and breathe deep.